Welcome to Suzanne Off the Cuff with my special guest over here, Steven Berg, and he's going to get to talk a whole bunch in just a few minutes. Let's see who's on here first, okay? And say hello to everybody. Delise, hello. Delise is from Washington. Francoise from Lyon, France. Ella Evelyn's from Bakersfield. Rona Shane from SoCal. Loanna Hendricks from Missouri, Elizabeth Nielsen from Sweden, Helen Henry from Lancaster, California. Oh, you're right. Helen, you got to come over and meet us. You're right by me. Emily Beaton, PA, MK from Brooklyn, Belinda from Norway, Nancy Johnston, Western Pennsylvania, Rebecca Senko from Orlando, Fatima from Portugal, Sylvia Earle from Cameron Park, California, Sandy from New Zealand, Margot from Bakersfield, Luana Hendricks from, where are you from, Luana? She says, Steven, I like that there are no mistakes, only variations.
Yay. I have that sign somewhere around the store.
Linda Annabelle from the Sunshine Coast, British Columbia, Sue Matei from Fresno, Susan Day from Newcastle, and bunches of more people. Welcome. Be sure to give us thumbs up, right? So, Steven, let me tell you how I heard of him and met of him. I had heard of him, but I hadn't had a chance to meet him until I was involved in a knit and crochet show with the Knitting Guild Association in Manchester. And he and Stephen West had been doing a United States tour that year, and we were really lucky to get them on their stop to be in Manchester, and they emceed our fashion show for us. And let me tell you, that was so fun. And I was so impressed with Stephen's knowledge of knitting. He comes off as a really fun guy, but underneath that fun, he knows his stuff. And the designs and things that he does they look so simplistic on the surface, and they're easy to knit, but it took a lot of thinking to get them to turn out that way. And his work is just amazing. So I'm thrilled to have him as my guest today. So, hello, Steven.
Hello, everybody. Knit it in a minute.
Yes.
Knit it in a minute. Get her done.
Yep.
Isn't there a comedian that used to say that? Get her done.
So, I'm going to start out by asking you the same question I ask everybody, and that is, how did you get involved with knitting to begin with?
My story is long and multifaceted, but in essence, picture this. German mother, knit as a child in what was East Germany at the time, brought the skill with her to the U.S., and I was born to a knitting mother who really, I was Mama's favorite little boy and Mama's boy, and I copied everything she did, including the knitting. So I don't know, maybe four and a half. There's a picture of me in my legendary book, and it shows me knitting in a little lawn chair outside in 1964. So I must have been about 4 years old. And Mom says she's not sure. There I am.
Oh, how cute. Look at you.
Yeah, in my lawn chair outside casting on. Mom's not knit the bar. I knit the next door Barbie doll clothes with the next door lady called Grandma Erickson. No relation, but we just called her Grandma Erickson.
Uh-huh.
And Mom taught me how to knit. And my story is, and who knows how it's evolved over the years, but as I was a young child, it was like, if you learn to knit and do something productive, you get to watch, as Mom called it, the boob tube, and for Saturday morning cartoons. So I learned to knit. My sister absolutely refused and went to school to home ec class to learn. My mom opened her shop in 1971. So I continued in all levels, in all crafts, through the 60s and 70s. The 70s crochet became popular.
Right.
So that's when I jumped on that bandwagon. Broomstick lace, hairpin lace, Then I joined the macrame revolution of the 70s, and I just did everything that, if anybody remembers, I should pull a magazine out, the McCall's Needlework. It was a larger format magazine. It came every other month. And I put bookmarks in and wanted to make everything that was in there. And so Mom gave me yarn for each project as I finished them. And at one point, I crocheted the carpeting for my bedroom.
Wow. Wow. So your mother, she owned a yarn store, right?
Yeah, 1971,
Uh-huh.
one of the first to do an independent yarn store. Because if you think back, like 50s and 60s, a lot of the yarn was in department stores at that time.
Exactly.
Uh, Here in Minneapolis, we had Dayton Hudson. In the early 70s, when Target first opened here in Minneapolis, we had Target had a yarn department. So yeah, and it was that time, the 70s, when people started opening up independent yarn shops more actively, and until knitting hit its big boom during the 80s, and then it fizzled out in the bit in the 90s and until the early 2000s, when Fun Fur made a splash on the market, and everybody that wanted to craft wanted to make a Fun Fur scarf.
And Fun Fur's coming back in, right?
All texture. I'm all about texture.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, if anybody needs Fun Fur, I've got a whole cabinet full, so let me know. Uh, yeah, texture, texture, texture. We've been in such a flat yarn mode lately over the past few years. So I'm seeing the texture creeping in. And my kind of philosophy is I choose my yarn as a cook would choose ingredients for a recipe. And if I'm not the person that would buy 8 skeins of red in the same dye lot to make a sweater. That's just not what I do. And so therefore, I collect things that I like because of the color, okay, and because of the texture.
Oh yeah, fun.
This is alpaca boucle,
Hmm.
and it's just such a beautiful coloration. And then my peacock, everything I do, I've got to have a peacock colorway.
Yes, gorgeous.
So I mix and match. I don't care that they're the same label, the same weight, because within one project, I may use all the way from DK down to lace weight. And I keep the needle consistent.
Right.
And some of my projects are really multi-textured, multicolored, multi-fibered. I'm not worried about mixing fibers. Some shops, they're separated by like animal fibers, wool, alpaca, etc. And then the other yarns, like the cotton, rayon, silk, are in the Florida room.
Right.
Right. And I don't do it like that because I mix them all together. I just do it for effect, and I love the way that fibers merge together. I try to take the box and the rules that somehow kind of, I don't know, I want to say took over knitting, but dominated knitting, is like follow the pattern and make it like the picture. And I'm more about inspiration. So my Ponchini here that I have on is, I'll stand back a bit and let's see, is the shawl that doesn't fall off. And this is my wild, wacky one with, this is fencing string from the hardware store. And these are rubber jelly cords from the people that make jelly shoes. And then these are pom-poms with a tube in the center, so you can hook them on with your crochet hook as you're knitting. And this is kind of extreme, but I do a lot of Ponchinis, and it all started with this.
Yes, I love the Ponchini. I think that is just an amazing design and so versatile. So beautiful.
And everybody watch out if you sign up for my emails at StevenBe.com. We're going to send out a Ponchini promotion this week. And for instance, this one is knit with a strand of bamboo and a strand of mohair boucle.
Wow, that's
And if,
gorgeous.
so you
Yes.
get the sheen, luster of the bamboo
Mm-hmm.
and the halo of the mohair.
Mm-hmm.
And if anybody has questions, let me know because,
They
um,
will. So I'm going to change your heading up here. It's StevenBe.com, right?
yes.
I'm going to
And
adjust.
so it's a shawl that stays on, and you kind of wear it asymmetrically over your arm. Here in Minnesota in the fall, we take the point down in front, we give it a good twist, and it becomes a cowl.
Yes. And what
And
I love
feel,
about it, this sounds silly, but nursing mothers, it's like
yeah,
perfect. It's perfect.
it's
Yes.
the modesty wrap. I have a version of that too. And then I call the Chicago version when you pull it because it's so windy. You pull it up and you have a hood.
Yes. It's just gorgeous. So how did you come up with that design?
I attribute it to this. It was a lady that was doing a yarn called Zuki, and she had a straight piece, and I was kind of like, well, a lot of people seam it up the side and leave a hole, the two sides together. And I'm like, what if we do side to ends? And so we tried it and it worked. And she kind of let it go. And I said, it's okay if I carry it forward. Mm-hmm. And since then, I've done it in every possible edition. It's a simple format of a panel. Here's the new one that's going to be promoted. This is called the Universe Chini because I did it for Universal Yarns. I don't know how to show this. Whoop, that doesn't work. I can't show the bottom.
Well, let me see if I can shrink it down a little bit. No, I can't.
There.
There we can see it. Oh, the tassels. Those are gorgeous.
Yeah. And
beautiful.
So it's a sparkle cone like this and held with a mohair together. And I have lots of mohairs. I carry a wide variety. And look at this one.
Wow. Right.
So you bring it in and you paint with the mohair. I consider mohair my watercolor. Mm-hmm. And I halo and I tint my yarns to give them a new personality by using these unique fibers.
So Margot has a question for you. She says, what skill level would you say a person needs to be to knit that garment?
Say what?
She wants
Susan, there's people sending me emails trying to get in. I don't know how that works.
Tell them
I don't know if that's on your...
Yeah, they need to check on YouTube. Tell them to go Suzanne Off the Cuff on YouTube,
Suzanne
and it'll be there.
Thank you.
So anyway, Margot wants to know, what skill level does a person need to be to knit the Ponchini?
It is... I'd like to say beginner, but it's not. It's advanced beginner. And it's knit, purl, yarn over, knit two together. Okay? And the only challenge that I've seen, let me show you close. Here's the color block. I have to tell you how I named them. But the only challenge that I see is when you're doing this yarn over lace, that people get it offset, and because they're following the count instead of reading their knitting.
Oh, yes.
And in my classes, I'm a big proponent of get the gist of it, and then from then on, read your knitting. Don't follow, because if you get off on count,
right,
then you're gonna end up putting a yarn over here in the middle of the rectangle,
right,
instead of lining them up. So sometimes I'll have people put markers, one here and one there over 4 stitches, so they never get off.
Yes.
But I'm really a big proponent of wordless knitting.
Right.
Get the gist of it. A pattern to me is only a suggestion. And as you said earlier, I don't believe in mistakes, variations. And I really think that's how new patterns get developed. and how people that are less confined by rules experience knitting differently and therefore create patterns. And I think a lot of us, I mean, everyone that's listening today, I think really is a fiber artist within. We just sometimes are afraid to let it loose because we don't want to make a mistake, we don't want judgment, whatever. And today I'm really talking about the joy of knitting and how to just break that out. So everything you do is just, you can't wait to get back to it. You get goosebumps. Start a new project, winding that new skein of yarn and cracking up the needles. Nothing better than that feel of a new project.
Right. What I like about the Ponchini, and I don't know that is that your most popular pattern?
Yes, it is. The second one is my vintage capelet,
Yeah.
and you'll see on Ravelry. I have one somewhere. I'll show you.
But the Ponchini looks so different depending on which yarn you use, and you can use any weight of yarn, and you can throw all the different colors in there. And do you have your jacket there that's knit out of the videotape?
I do.
Let's
Hold
show
on.
people that.
Well, I have a couple for you I brought with me today. So this is VHS tape that was recorded with one of those early video cameras of my niece's childhood. And once it got transferred, now it's in a memory sweater.
But it's knit out of VCR tape, right?
Yep. VCR, VHS, whatever they call it.
Yeah.
And I put a cotton with it.
Isn't that cool?
And then this is my hardware store Hank. Hardware Hank here. Whoops. So this has bungee cord through the chest. And you'll see here the metallic is chain link from the fencing department at Home Depot.
Wow.
Then the gray part is the linen. And the black part is $300 worth of chunky cashmere.
Wow.
So the disparity, the uniqueness of all these different varieties of texture together, it's kind of a challenge to wear this because it's very heavy. But I do it on like event pieces and stuff. I slip it on. I have to have someone help me get it off, though.
Yeah.
It's kind of like wearing armor.
I love it though because you could knit with anything. Anything.
Well, my motto is let no continuous strand remain unknit.
There you go.
The world is your oyster.
So, when you first started knitting, and how old were you when you designed something? Did you always right from the beginning just do what you wanted, or did you start out by following designs?
I started out by following patterns and learning techniques. And I think because I learned so early that it just became a natural, it absorbed by my mind. So I can look at anything and tell you, people come in with a pattern in the middle of something that I didn't sell them, and I can pick it up and just figure out what the answer is.
Yeah. By looking at it. You can see the architecture of the knitting.
Right. And I can help them right away with having to study the whole pattern and figure out where they are at.
Right. So you can see it. See, that's why, like you were talking about in your classes, you have people follow their knitting. It's more about reading your knitting than reading the pattern.
Yes. One of my favorites right now is StevenBe Artful short rows. And they're lazy short rows.
Uh-huh.
So you've got the traditional, I should say, wrap and turn.
Uh-huh.
And Carly says I'm fading out a bit.
You're doing okay. I don't know. You're doing okay.
If I can promote something. The classic. Oh yeah, look.
I'm gonna look for your patterns on Ravelry.
What? No, it's fine. StevenBe.com. They just made me the sign. I don't know. Hello. It's correct up there. Um, Let me continue. So the classic wrap and turn, and when you do the wrap and turn, you're trying to decide yarn forward, slip the stitch back. Oh, do I you count that stitch or don't I count that? You know, I just made it simple. So here's my project where I figured it out on, and this is a popular pattern on Ravelry. This is not mine.
Right.
The papillon butterfly, and this is my peacock colorway, where the color changes.
Oh, wow.
And fits the section, and then I outlined it in lime green, which I had here somewhere. Or you can pick any pop color, and this is my StevenBe Binge brand, if I had it right side up. Binge brand, and we have it in worsted, DK, fingering, and mohair.
Let me. I'm.
Accent. This would make a beautiful accent too.
Wow.
With this aqua.
Wow. Yes.
So you need a high contrast. Here's one thing that I do in my workshops. I have everybody write down the word matching, and then I have them cross it out. Give me other words. Give me other words that mean something similar, but are really more honest. Because I don't believe matching in the fiber world works for me. You don't want to match this so closely, like with a purple, because you won't get the definition as in this shawl.
You'll lose it.
It'll become blurry.
Yes.
And people are so afraid of buying something that doesn't match. And I see it most often. I'm giving you inspiration, suggestions on how to kind of set yourself free. So they match buttons, but they come in with a hat and they want the same color button as the hat. And then I start laying buttons on for them, and I said, you need to pop it, contrast it. If you look in the store at buttons, they hardly ever match the garment.
Right.
If you think about it. And they are either, in the old days, they were bone or tortoise shell or something like that. Now they're all kinds of interesting textures and colors. And so when you're picking your yarn, you really need it to pop and stand out against the other color. So if it's a dark color, then go with the light accent. If you just put a dark purple with this, it will all turn muddy.
Right.
So don't be afraid to use color.
I love lime green. It goes with a lot of things, and you think it wouldn't, but boy, does it.
Oh, it's one of my, I have two neutrals. And when I do a color workshop, we should do that sometime, Suzanne. The color workshop, and I call it, I'm the reader of people's color story. And I have personality traits, and you pick those, and it relates to the colors you choose, not just in yarn, but perhaps in your home accessories, your car, anything where color choices are involved. And a lot of people have a personality trait that dictates the color choices, and I find that very interesting. So we should share that with the public sometime.
That would be fun. That could be a whole new live stream.
Yeah, that would be great. I digress because like this is holding my fingering together and a mohair.
Yes.
And this texture is so beautiful. And the sweater's knit loose. That's another thing.
Yes.
People get so obsessed with gauge.
Yes. Yes.
That to me, gauge is, and this is for my type of knitting, not Josh Bennett, who everything fits perfectly. But gauge to me is the texture that I like the feel of.
Right.
So if I've got some yarns and it says an 8 or a 9, whoops, I moved, an 8 or a 9, I'm going to start on maybe a 7, 8, 9, 10, and I'm going to see which one I like better and the look of it.
Yes, exactly.
And I don't knit to the label gauge ever. I hardly ever use a single strand. I'll always mix and match 2 or 3. And I create I create my ingredients and I cook them up into the recipe that I've created, and then I have a wonderful output. And the story I use is if I'm cooking and perhaps I want to make spaghetti for dinner, yes? And I'm making the sauce. And I open up a can of tomato paste and put it on the dining room table in a tureen with a ladle and pasta. And my company goes, "What's that?" Tomato paste. They're not impressed. But if you take your skillet and saute olive oil and garlic and shallots and mushrooms and add Italian sausage and some heirloom tomatoes, you come up with the most amazing sauce. And all those ingredients separately combine for a very interesting whole end result. So that's how I look at my knitting.
Yes. So Jane Hart wants to know, Steven, whether you're a continental knitter or an English knitter.
Continental. My story is, I believe, because my mother's from Germany and I learned from her, but not everybody, or pick knitting as they call it, does it. It's regional. But yeah, the continent of Europe did more of the pick knitting, hence the name continental. And then the British did more of a throw knitting and, needle under the arm or needle in the crotch or wherever. And then you got the Portuguese who run it up around their neck. There's so many ways. I could do both, but I prefer continental pick knitting. And I have a lot of people that come to me to learn the pick knitting. And you only change if you want to, though. It's not necessary. I don't believe there's a right way or a wrong way. But some people like to conquer all the knitting tasks that are available to them.
So I'm a continental knitter. And let me put this for both here. I want both of us on here. Oh, what'd I do? Oh, here we go. I'm a continental knitter. And I get a lot of people wanting to know how to knit continental. And in all my classes that I teach, I've never had anybody say they wanted to switch from continental to English. But I've had a lot of people want to switch from English to continental. And at last week, I was reading something to our guild by Anna Zilberg, and she said she had never met anybody that wanted to switch from continental to English either. So I don't know why.
Great.
Yeah, so let's see. Jean wants to know if you have a video on your short row method.
I haven't made it yet, but honestly, go on StevenBe.com. Do me a favor. I could use all the new subscribers right now I could get, but I'm going to do like little individual workshops, short, low priced, and just jam packed with information. I kind of have a StevenBe way of doing everything.
Mm-hmm.
And when I started out, they did a magazine article on me and called me the glitter knitter because everything I did kind of sparkled. And then I've I've changed and progressed over the years. And StevenBe is, I've applied to the Urban Dictionary that StevenBe becomes a transitive verb that the meaning is taking something further than it was intended to go.
Right.
So that's what I do. It's not just the glitter. So when I got the glitter name, now as I've aged, I've kind of emerged as the lazy knitter. So I look at a quick approach to do everything. I've done it with brioche. I'm not very labor intensive. I like to get things done. My dream product is something that you start maybe Friday after work and you work on it over the weekend because the time is yours, and then you wear it to work on Monday. And that's kind of one of my theories of knitting. And that's where I am at in my personal journey right now. I honestly, because of, sheltering at home, have become a television addict, but I can't sit and waste all the time watching TV. So you have to
Knit.
have a productive pastime.
Right. You have to knit. So, Steven, how can people support you the best right now? Do you have an online store? Before we go on that, let me show them your patterns on Ravelry. I'm going to do that, okay? I'm going to share my screen. And this is Steven's work on Ravelry. Let me move Steven over here. Okay, so we're going to go through here. Can you see those, Steven?
Yes, I can. Thank you. Some of them are, beginner projects. I'm not very difficult on my patterns. They're whimsical. And then some of them, like the cable drape shrug you're going by right now, it's just very clever.
This one right here.
It's like my Ponchini, one long strip. And it's only got 2 seams, and it makes a whole, like, a jacket.
This one's cute over here.
I do a lot of things. Of things. That's Cirque du Soir. It means circles of silk, and it's just 2 circles put together in the back.
That's super
the center
cute.
one. The center one, the Rock and Slouch, that was my inspiration in Amsterdam with Stephen West. So it's like a headband, then you knit the hat onto it.
Oh.
So a lot of my things are double purpose, and there's a couple more of those.
Is it brioche? No.
Yeah, basically. I never called it brioche. I was kind of like knit and the stitch below was another way to look at it.
Knit below.
And there's an X book that talks all about that.
This one is so cool because you can use huge differences in yarns and just is amazing looking.
Yeah, I did that one in crochet and knit because I believe a lot in crochet. I have a lot of crochet samples here today. And I kind of believe that whatever you can knit, you can also crochet and make it look similar, because sometimes crochet gets such a bad rap. It's on the back of the sofa in the Roseanne or that 70s show.
Right.
And there's so many beautiful crochet. And in fact, that middle one, the Ponchini that you just passed, it looks just like a Ponchini, but it's crocheted.
Yes, this one right here.
Yeah.
I like this one too. It's very elegant. The diamonds and platinum Ponchini.
That's probably one of my most long-lasting, famous ones. And I support a job creation in South Africa. It's women that are left on their own through death or divorce, and they don't have a lot of value in society as a colored person, a black person. And so they get together, these single women, and they produce yarn, and I buy a lot of it and bring it over.
Wow.
When the shipping's good.
These are so beautiful, and these are all quick. They're fun to knit.
Yeah. Oh, my Lady Gaga shroud. Look, it's Lady Gaga modeling it. Or maybe I'm just good at Photoshop, but I haven't gotten a cease and desist yet, so.
All of these.
Yeah, there's the hand-spun wiggle shawl is there, and then before you pointed out the crochet version. Okay, this middle one, the howl. Yes. That's my hat to cowl. So first you knit the cowl, and then you put the stitches on hold, and then you cast back on and knit the hat. So it's a hat-cowl combination called the howl. And I do that a lot. Like, for instance, if your shawl turns out too big, it becomes a schlanket, shawl blanket. And if your cowl becomes a mini skirt, it's a scowl. So I have a lot of fun with my knits. It's all meant as humor and inspiration. And my Loop Me In cardigan over here on the right, I just finished it. That's a silk, and my favorite yarn is Alchemy Silk.
Wow. Beautiful.
Where's the camera?
Yes.
Alchemy Silk.
Nice.
And that Loop Me In cardigan is 1 strand of silk with a fingering weight. And then I just did a new version. Here it is, with mohair and a fingering together.
Wow.
And fun because the bubbles, you get to learn how to knit forward and backward without turning your work.
Yes, that's a good skill to have. Very cool.
You know, because otherwise you'd be flipping and getting your yarns twisted all the time,
Right.
and you'd constantly be detangling, and this avoids that whole process.
And that's knit
So
side to side.
I sneak in these little elements of education in all my simplicity because I always like to challenge one little thing new.
I know, that's what I love about you. Have these, you just think so far outside the box. Let me see, there's another page here. Let me go to the next page.
Oh yeah, there's pages and pages.
Yes, let me find it. Let me go to the next page. Next page. Okay.
So Joy, can we put up a coupon called Joy, because it's Joy of Knitting, and Joy works here. So we'll put a coupon up for anyone on today for 50% off all the patterns.
That's nice. Thank you. So that'll be on your on the Ravelry,
on my web,
on your web page.
No, on my website. It's
Okay.
the same listing. That way, when you get on, you register for the email for me, and you can always, you know, unsubscribe if it's too much for you. But ours are fun, and it really shows you a variety of projects. And then through that, you'll have the discount of 50% using the code word JOY, all capital letters.
Okay. So
The Joy City.
Duke of Nico has asked, he says, what's your best-selling pattern and what is your personal favorite?
Let's go through the other page here. I'll tell you in a minute.
Okay. I like this Nettle Grove Ponchini there. Right there.
I did that to make it look crochet because I was always the other side of the fence, you know. And I did that special for my trip in California, and I was in, what's the town? Petaluma.
Yeah.
Oh, there's my Ponchini Grande in the center. And these are my books, and we really try to look to being unique. We've used a lot of diversity, and in fact, one of my books, the transgender models for the book, and we just thought it's really, you know, kind of fun and relevant.
This
and
one's
makes
cool.
it multidimensional.
It's Queen of Sharves. That's awesome looking.
That's actually silk and run with stainless steel.
Wow. This one's cute, the shawl vest.
The shawl vest is wonderful. I have one here. There's so many ways to wear it. I'll show you one. Ann Tarja, if you know Ann Berg.
Yes.
She made this for me. She followed my pattern, but created her own.
Yes. Beautiful.
So all the Tarja work. My motto is anything you put two holes in becomes a garment.
Okay, let's go back to these. Let's see here.
The shawl vest is a great item.
Okay, so we went to that one by accident.
Oh, she's tinier than I am.
These are cute too.
That is my silken scribbles. So that is, I believe people, you know, like chunky yarn, but the difference is buying chunky yarn, 8 skeins of it to make this big, heavy cardigan that most of us don't need anymore. It's hot, it's bulky. People say, oh, it makes me look heavy. So this is how I use chunky. So I alternate it. I'm going to grab a piece to show you here. I have all these here. So this is it. So I use the bulky, and then I strand the Alchemy silk with a mohair in between on a size 15 needle. Wow. I don't change needles. I keep the needles consistent.
So that would go really fast.
This is one of my projects we do in the workshop, and some people do finish it during the class time. But this is like 90 to 100 yards of thick yarn, so that one skein you've got laying around becomes a great art yarn project.
Very cool. Yeah, sometimes you have that one skein that just calls your name and you have to buy it. And then you get home and you don't know what you're going to do with it.
then you sit around and don't know what to do with it, right? And then it sits there for years. And that's why my projects really utilize those elements. I'm going to show you one here in 1 second, if I can find it. Here, well, here's one version of it. So using those skeins of yarn that you've gathered.
Wow.
Okay, and so this is 1111. Try to hold still here. Of the yarns that I've collected and made into this wonderful shawl.
That's beautiful.
The edging, and it's called Venomous Tentaculus.
Wow.
Okay, that's someone else's pattern, and if you look at it online, she made it in solid green, and it's very pretty. But I look at it as an opportunity to StevenBe it, meaning to take it further than it was intended to go.
Exactly. Okay, let's look at some more on Ravelry. By going over these on Ravelry, it reminds you of what you've got. This one's pretty here. There's Silken Scribbles.
That's the one I showed. Yeah, I showed that. That's okay. In my that's actually in my bedroom. I have a Victorian home. The model standing in front of my fireplace, and that's the same technique used in a vest, a circle vest.
Right.
Things knit in a circle fit very well.
Yes, they drape nicely.
My soiree there is my vintage capelet with a pink background. Mm-hmm. It's a pull-through loop with fringe on it. It's a very wonderful event piece if you're going to something special someday in the future.
Look at this stained glass poncho.
Yeah. Well, you know me, I'm the kind of person that's in my dining room. I had the walls painted like peacock feathers. And I figured that you should throw a poncho on with a ball gown.
Yeah.
Oh yes, some great stuff.
That's sweet.
A lot of these are from my books. We've got this is one that I'll throw in everybody's order. Where's the camera? There we go. Flip and wear. So this is Stephen West and I. There's me. There's him. Upside down. Half the book's upside down. Half of it's right side up. You guess which half. And then I have a whole book on the Ponchinis. Volume 1, so I'm putting together volume 2.
You could convert these into online courses. You could do that.
Yeah.
You know.
Yes. All my staff is like on my tail.
Just like you and I are doing right now. It's this easy, Steven. It's this easy.
And I did the first session of Vogue virtual. I did that. And it was a lot of fun. And it was great because you could have a lot of people in your workshop and reach more people than just here in the store.
Right.
I will be focusing them on my color workshop, my tips and tricks, because everybody likes the tips and tricks, you know. Mm-hmm. I throw so many in there that I just challenge you to like pick your 3 favorites from the whole workshop. And they span usually about 2 hours to 2.5. With a little break in between, but I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to do my Ponchini class, just to give you my special tricks for that. I do my shawls, scarves, and scarves, because today I feel like a shawl is really a scarf, okay? And not many of us wear them over the shoulder like Whistler's mother anymore. We more wear them as an accessory or a decorative item. And so when I took the shawl and the scarf, I made it the term sharf, which really works better. And it also allows men to wear them because not every guy wants to be wearing a shawl.
Right.
So the terminology is the difference. I want to show you one if I can find it. Give me 1 second.
Okay. And then we'll look at some more of your Ravelry projects because there's just so...
Yeah.
Oh,
so this is the result of, if I can hold it still, of taking my short row class gone rogue. All right. So it's a long piece that also almost looks like seaweed.
It's gorgeous.
It's just short rows and binding off and using all your favorite yarns. So it's
Beautiful.
taking the traditional, classic, repetitive pattern and doing your own thing. And this is one of the pieces I use in my color workshop because there's so many stories within this one piece.
Okay, let me show some more on Ravelry.
Yes. Oh, yeah. That's my Tunisian crochet, the Tunisian cowl, which I love, but it's always done with such flat yarn, maybe. And that's a hand spun done with a Malabrigo chunky, and it just becomes this wonderful art piece. Honestly, I don't knit classically. I can. In fact, one time when the first movie of Sex and the City came out, Carrie was wearing a Chanel red cabled scarf, and everyone freeze framed that picture and sent it to me and said, "Could you write the pattern for that? We want to imitate it." So I did. That's how the skill that I have, and I could do all that. But I choose to let myself go. If I want to buy a gorgeous cabled sweater, I'll probably buy it, purchase it. I won't knit it because I'm going to knit art pieces. So I knit for the sake of art, fashion. I love to see what's going on the runways. Art, fashion, and pop culture. I like pop culture, and that's why my friends are in the movie business. So I would have the joy of knitting some sweaters. Actually, my mom knit them. I designed them for Jennifer Aniston. And I did mini skirts for Misha Barton, who was on the show called The OC, and other celebrities out there that my friend was on the movies. I'd go out there and hang out in the movie set, and I'd knit things for people. So that's where my pop culture side comes in. I just like to make it fun because you don't see a lot of people, especially men, you don't see them throwing on cardigans, and I like to make things that actually people will wear for fun and an accessory and something multi-faceted. You can wear it different ways.
So this unique oblique is really pretty too.
There's a mermaid shawl somewhere in here, and that was my friend, artist, who made that unique oblique. She varied my pattern and gave it to me using the self-striping yarn. It's really fun.
Beautiful. This one down here, the vintage capelet, that's really pretty too.
That's my number one purchased pattern online. And it's wonderful. You see that one had some beads in it.
You could use two different yarns too for the stockinette and reverse stockinette. It looks like it is two different yarns.
It is. One's darker, one's lighter slightly. What I did was I used the same weights for both stripes, 2 tones, but then in those special sections, I added a beaded ball from South Africa to give it and it's like an elegant evening piece. There's my whiskey flask.
Woolly Mammoth Super Shrug. Oh my gosh. Those are my colors. And easy to make.
And use up your yarns. My motto is if you use up one from home, you can go buy 2 more.
Yeah. Yes.
So a lot of my projects allow you to use up yarns that you own. And kind of the joy of creating these is augmenting what you already own by adding something to it and giving it new life.
Well, a lot of people say that there's really 2 hobbies. There's the 2 hobbies. There's collecting yarn and then knitting. And so if you collect yarn, sometimes your stash needs it. Do you know what I mean?
It needs calling for it.
Yes, you need to add this skein to your stash because your stash needs it. Not because you need it, but because it would complement your stash,
Most of my customers have gotten to the point they don't need a reason anymore. They just their significant other has their own hobby, and spend your money on that one. I'm spending mine on yarn. But if I could take a minute and talk about that.
Yes.
Stash. I don't remember when that word came into being, but when I was a kid, we didn't have a stash. I think my dad said, "When are you going to clean up the knitting corner?" But think about it today. All of these wonderful fibers like this one So this is Madeline Tosh for me, but it's only done for me. I don't know if you can see the name. It's glitter halo. So it's holographic glitter in it. Where is the camera? I keep missing the camera. There we go. And so they dye custom for me on all this different bases. And that's art to me. So really, what's the difference between an artist painting watercolor on canvas or oil on canvas or bronze sculpture than a dyer painting with dye on a fiber? So all of you today, let's grasp the concept that you're fine art collectors. Okay, you're collecting fine art. You can choose to store it or display it. I have a bowl where I wind up skeins of yarn, and then I have some ostrich eggs from South Africa, and I make these interesting arrangements. So my yarn is live on display. Hang it in your entryway from an old-fashioned coat hook from Laura Ingalls days. Hang your skeins of yarn and change them seasonally, or when you need a pick-me-up. The joy, yeah. The joy of our fine art collection is that we can also use it.
Right. So, and display it. The thing is about quit putting it under your bed and in the closet. Display it.
I do, and I have it hanging all over. So, especially my really interesting hand spuns and hand painted, because I do believe it's fine art. And you can say, honey, I'm buying fine art because I'm a curator of a fine art collection.
I love that.
And it just gives it a new life and a new sense. It's whimsical and funny, but it's yet inspirational because it gives you a mindset to think of things in another dynamic.
I love that. Because, I love my stash, and I have yarns in my stash that I never intend knitting, but there's no way I'm going to get rid of them because I love them. I love them, If you're the kind of person that likes to sort, I have a method. And I'm going to tell you how I store my yarns too, or group my yarns. My method is every so often, 6 months to a year, if I'm lucky, I'll pull out the yarns and I'll look what I was intending to do. Is there a pattern with the yarn? And I have 3 groups. I have the group I love this idea, and I'm going to make it. And it's going to put in my queue. The second one is, like you're talking about, I really like it. Not sure I'll ever use it. I don't like the pattern I was going to do with it, but the yarn's great, or vice versa. And it needs to become something someday, or just sit there. And then I have the third group, which is, what the hell was I thinking? Sometimes that third group, you see something on sale and you're like, oh, I could use that someday. And, for right now in my life where things are in the world, I like to knit for the journey and the time that I'm spending with it, not necessarily expecting an outcome. Now,
I probably have 4.
There's another thing about a stash. I think someone needs to write a book. It's a psychology. Stash is a psychology.
Yeah.
So let's say you have this marvelous, beautiful yarn, gorgeous yarn, and you have it in your stash, and you have enough to knit whatever project it was you want to knit. But instead of choosing that one for your next project, you choose a less worthy yarn because you don't want to use that really good yarn yet. And you end up using the lesser quality yarns and keep holding on to that really nice yarn for some reason.
Of course, I have the luxury of a yarn shop, and I'll admit I'm very lucky and grateful, and I have a lot of gratitude for it. But I pick any yarn that I want to go, and I go for it. So for that, I'm very grateful. But it allows me to experiment and be creative. It's like my fiber studio, artist studio, became a business at one point. And now I'm in the firehouse here in Minneapolis. I don't know, 7,000 some square feet, 2 floors. So we have the fiber loft upstairs, the main knitting room here. I'm going to turn you around for 1 second. Mama, wave. Mama Krista's here with me if I get her in the screenshot. Where are you, Mom? Let's see. I got to get there. Get me out. Are you there? Can we see her yet? Where am
I
I going?
see. I see her. Hi.
There she. There she
Hi.
is. That's Mama Krista, who taught me how to knit. She comes into the shop with me and spends the day, and she's got her own fan club. And we also have Mama Krista had a yarn shop in rural Wisconsin for perhaps 40 some years. And now we have a room upstairs. It's called Mama Krista's Workshop, where we have the yarns that she had in her store. Some of them are vintage at this point. And, you know, vintage fabrics are interesting, so why not vintage yarn?
Exactly. Exactly.
Excuse me. I weeded out the squeaky ones and all that. You know, there was a period when acrylic was created to mimic wool, and it was supposed to be kind of scratchy and stiff because that's the quality of wool back then.
Right.
Before they discovered merino. Yeah, the story is that acrylic yarn was created, or acrylic fiber, in 1951 to emulate they want a cheaper version of wool.
Right.
And that's when it came to life. Rayon, on the other hand, was done in the 20s and 30s, and then Tencel in the 80s. So we have all these new generations of synthetic fibers, and polyester's back. Sorry, people, it's back.
But it's called things like bamboo.
A microfiber.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It has better names.
Yeah, and the yarn's clothing industry's full of it. It's nothing to poo-poo really about if it's the right product.
Right. Well, you know what you were talking about a little while ago was the fabric that you're creating. That instead of going for a certain gauge, you try several different needles with the yarn you're working with until you get the fabric that you like, and then you go forward. That's how I teach knitting, and all the stuff that I teach is we start with a swatch. And I actually teach garment knitting, and so we always start with a swatch. So you create your swatches, multiple swatches, you block them, you carry them around with you in your purse, you look at them, you feel them, and you decide which one you like the best, and that's the one you're going to use for your garment. You know, rather than saying, oh my God, I got to go down one more needle size because I'm not getting 6 stitches to the inch, you know.
Do you like it? That's what I asked. Do you like it?
Right.
And I challenge you not to keep going like this. Does this match? Does this match? We get that all the time. And I'm like, it doesn't have to. Okay? Does it look good together? And most yarn shops don't like to do this, but I encourage it, is to take a strand, if you're stranding together, because this is not the true look of your project.
No.
Skein by skein. It's strand by strand. So I encourage taking a couple strands, if you're not sure, to prove it to you, and giving a little twist to see how great, I don't know if I can do this in front of you, but how great it's going to look together.
Yes,
and
that would be stunning.
Would look phenomenal
Stunning.
Because they don't match.
They're stunning. I took a class from Laura Bryant one time on color at one of the stitches, and she had us choose 2 yarns. She had a bunch of yarns to choose from out on the table. She said, choose 2 that you absolutely know will not go together. That you know will not go together, and knit a swatch using linen stitch. And we made the most beautiful swatches. They were stunning. And everybody had picked colors they just knew would not go together.
It sets you free. It really sets you free. I do that with color. I'm like, pick a color you hate, and we're going to use it. So these are the signs Joy made for me to clarify things.
Okay, let me flip you around. Hold on. Let me flip you. You're
backward.
I'm going to mirror you. Hold on, I can do that. There.
Oh, look at that. You're so good at this, Suzanne. Joy works here, and joy of knitting, so it's all about the joy.
Yes.
And that's the reason I'm here today.
Now, do you have an online yarn store or not?
Yes. So there's a great shopping experience online. You'll find a lot of things that are unique to us, like 3 Irish Girls. So this is my label. Oops, stop.
Okay. Let me flip it
Where
over to
is it?
just you.
I'm
Yeah.
going. I'm going back to more
Yes.
signs.
Yes.
So that's the label. You know, little zebra. My furnishing is all zebra rugs, and it's funny because I've got this palette of zebra and hot pink. It's like you can give me a gift and zebra hot pink or a 12-year-old little girl. You know, it's like the same taste. This is our Care Bear Stare, which we're all named after fun, nerdy things. So it's the rainbow for the rainbow month of Pride. And then this is Doctor Who. So there you go. It's got the name with the TARDIS,
Oh, it's
exploding
got that
TARDIS.
blip of color in it. That's going to be gorgeous.
Yeah, exploding TARDIS when the whole thing burst. And then this is my electric peacock because I have to have peacock for everything.
So I'm going to show people your website here. I pulled it up. So this is what it looks like. And what you can do is sign in for the email, which I'm going to do right now. Now I'm on his email list, and this is his website. So he's got home.
That's my other favorite colorway, peacock.
Yes, that peacock feather is gorgeous. Shop. So he's got new. Now somebody was asking, Deborah wanted to know if you're selling any of your mother's vintage yarn.
Yes, but that's more, I'm going to set those up for, in the meantime, you just email me at info@StevenBe.com and we do a personal shopping experience.
Okay.
Because it's too broad and too detailed to put on the internet.
So people can contact you on here and you will give them a personal shopping experience if they would like.
Yeah, I do FaceTime or Zoom. I'm not as good at Skype. But I could learn now that you've inspired me. And I just finished one yesterday, and I shipped to Hawaii. I did another one that we're shipping to Australia. And I'm still working on a sweater with Moira from California.
Very cool. Very cool.
That's what I do a lot because it's about the personal relationship. I have to be honest. You know, I love the knitting, and there's a lot of joy to it. But if you're trying to make a career out of it, you're never going to be a tech giant in the Silicon Valley. You know what I mean?
Right.
That living in a $2 million house. So you got to do it because you love it and you love yarn and you like sharing with people. I more so, rather than a high technical experience with me and how to cross your stitches and cable, it's more about stick with me because you like to be inspired. You like to look at the world a little upside down and sideways because that's what I do. Quirky, flamboyant, extrovertish, and some people don't have that in their lives, and they come to me to experience that. Maybe someday I'll welcome you into my shoe room, 420 pairs of shoes.
Right.
But that's how eccentric I am, and it translates into my store, an 1890s firehouse, with a $250,000 chandelier hanging in the middle because I picked it up for a couple $1,000s only. And that's how quirky I am. So the shopping experience is fun because I take you around the store and I give you my suggestions. And most of the time people come for one thing and end up with three. So just saying.
That's good. So Margot.
But I really like to all price points as well. So I don't have any more of the really expensive silk with beads and such. I have, I have more of a variety nowadays. So I have all the way down to $3 a skein because I believe everybody deserves a chance to knit and not everyone, especially now, has the pocketbook to support it.
Right.
So I work with you and I really am not that uppity. I used to be like a Neiman Marcus, but now I believe I'm more like the shop for everyone. I'm like, maybe if yarn had a farmer's market, that's what I am. And we have everything you could possibly need.
So Margot wants to know, she says, question, how can we best support Steven by purchasing patterns on Ravelry or purchasing from his website?
From my website, but either way is great. I suppose we could put the discount on both, but we can't at this time. The Ravelry hasn't worked as well for us, so I appreciate it on our website.
Very cool.
Thank you for asking.
Very cool. So, is there anything that we forgot to talk about?
Oh, I have it backed up here. We could go on for 2 more hours.
I know.
But maybe if there's enough response and people enjoyed themselves today, we could do another one next month.
Yes.
And I could talk about some different things, or I could do a little technique teaser.
That would be fine.
Of some sort.
We can definitely do that. Even just showing all the different variations of the Ponchini, just something like that, because it's just, those are so. When I first saw one, I thought it was simple, but they're simple to make. But the concept of it and the design of it is so elegant and so. It just is perfect. They're a perfect thing, and it can be worn so many different ways and looks so different with so many different yarns.
You guys see the red chunky Ponchini? Oh, I got to show you the ultimate, okay?
Okay.
But yes, the Ponchini was done so you can use up yarn at home. Over there. So you could use up yarn at home. And all you do is you make a panel. And I don't like the word just or only, because it's not, we diminish our work so much. We got to use positive adjectives. Like, this is an amazing use of a chunky yarn. Here it is.
It's awesome.
Okay. So this is the same one done in bulky. And then this, it's inside out, unfortunately.
I'll fix it.
She's going to fix it.
This is Joy's favorite.
Joy's going to show her favorite. Joy and Noelle are here today. Hey, Noelle, yell hello. God, that was hard. And see, this one, mine are versatile, so you can pull it up as a hood.
I love it.
This is one where I've used up half skeins from other shawls that I had to knit samples for from someone else's pattern, and I did my own.
That's her bench.
From my binge knit yarn that I showed you earlier, and I ran the mohair with it. But
That's
I
gorgeous.
love, you understand color. Putting hot pink, orange, fuchsia, red together was a no-no until Yves Saint Laurent did it in about 1972. And now, with the purple, I love all the shades of this piece.
That's beautiful.
So don't be afraid of color, experiment. And you can change the color of anything. Maybe the other thing too is next time, the short row thing. I've got some amazing examples of yarns that you'd never go together, you'd never pick unless you were inspired under the StevenBe concept of taking it further than it was intended to go.
So people are saying they'd love to see you again on my channel. So we'll schedule something. When we get off here in a minute, we'll schedule something, and then we can talk about it. So
that would be lovely. I've enjoyed my time, and
yes.
I am so grateful. I'm so grateful, Susan. It was a wonderful, humbling experience to be with you and be able to share I got goosebumps from being on. Thank you. I needed it so badly in this time of challenges.
Yes,
so
yes.
I love it.
Yeah, so I try to use my place to help promote other people, because I love knitting. And people that have inspired me, that's who I have on my show. And you have been an inspiration to me, Steven. And I love your work, and I love your outside of the box and the colorfulness, and it makes me happy. It makes me happy. And that's what knitting is supposed to do. It's to make you like joy. To give you joy and make you happy. So I'm going to wrap up today. Steven and I are going to talk privately after this is over, and we'll set something up. And I think that would be very, very fun, an educational thing. So we'll let you all go back to your normal life.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.